If you need to lose weight, which most Americans do, about 70% of Americans are either overweight or obese, I want you to listen to what I have to say. Now, we talk a lot on this channel about gut health, a lot about hiatal hernia syndrome, acid reflux, and definitely one of the major, not the only, but a contributing factor to hiatal hernia, acid reflux is being overweight. So this video definitely aligns with what we talk about a lot. So I want to talk about the GLP-1 drugs. So some of the names are Ozempic and Wegovy, Semaglutide, and I always forget the last one, Mounjaro. And so what do these drugs do? Or more importantly, what does your natural GLP-1 do? Because it is a hormone that you make naturally in your small intestine when you eat. And what it's supposed to do, what it does, is create satiety, so you feel full, you feel like you've had enough food. It also slows gastric emptying, not to a bad degree, but you know, you eat and you do feel full. And so, you know, there is that moment of, I'm going to tell you my personal story with semaglutide and then my solution to that, but that's a little bit later. So if you are somebody who can easily overeat, and I was definitely in that category, still am genetically, there's a lot of obesity in my family, etc. You know what it is to eat, and you say, I know I've eaten enough, and I just don't care. I mean, I'm still hungry, I still want more. You know, my mother used to call it her dessert stomach. And meaning that it doesn't matter how much you ate, there was always room for dessert because you had a separate compartment, of course. You know, that's very anatomically correct, not. But, you know, that separate compartment labeled dessert stomach could always, could always enjoy that dessert. There was always room for more. And some people aren't like that. When they produce enough GLP-1, they eat a sensible amount of food, they feel full, they're satisfied, they don't have cravings. I know for some of us that is not a day-to-day occurrence at all. But what else GLP-1s do is they increase your insulin production so that you drive blood sugar into your cells. You are not then having excess blood sugar in your circulating bloodstream, meaning you're not going to be moving toward type 2 diabetes. Also, you're not going to be moving toward fatty liver, which is it's a big problem in our country. What else? Oh, it's very important. Actually, GLP-1 supports your gut barrier, meaning you're not going to get a leaky gut. So it's so important. So not only does it, keep you satisfied so you're not overeating and keeps your insulin levels strong and you're not getting fatty liver, but you're having good gut integrity. So you're not going to get a leaky gut, which then leads to chronic inflammation, and inflammation is the root of all the diseases, literally, that you don't want to get. So this GLP-1 is a really important hormone, and for those of us, and I am definitely in this category, who can continue to have cravings, can easily overeat, we are under responders genetically. So whether it's genetic or habit over time, I shouldn't say it's only genetic. I know my genetics, and so I know that I am. But for some people, it can also be habitual, how your lifestyle, certainly what you're eating. But there literally are under responders, meaning you eat and you don't get that a good enough hit of GLP-1 such that you're easily satisfied, etc. So of course, you can see if you are an under-responder, you're more likely to be obese, constantly be hungry, create type 2 diabetes, create fatty liver, and because of the inflammation component, everything that goes with that includes cancer, autoimmune disease, neurodegenerative diseases, etc. And then also, let me harken back to the benefit of GLP-1. I left one thing out. So it's not only supporting your gut barrier so you don't have a leaky gut, but it also is protecting the brain. So a lot of good things to be said about GLP-1, and if you truly are an under-responder, then you can see the benefits of raising your GLP-1. Now, natural ways to do that are to increase the fiber in your diet. 90+% of Americans are low in fiber, so that's certainly problematic. Polyphenols found in berries and olive oil and greens, dark leafy greens. Intermittent fasting to the tune of 12 to 14 hours, not really going beyond that 14 hours. I did a video on that. The liabilities of going beyond 14 are pretty well established. And exercise, of course, and then also normalizing, optimizing your gut microbiome through testing and working with a clinician who does that. Okay, so then what are the issues I have with these medications? Now, let me jump into my story. So my story was that certainly there's been a lot of talk about the GLP-1s, and I also just personally last year, so I'm taping this mid-2025, so starting the end of 2024, my weight was just creeping up. And I, because there's obesity in my family, and also because this is what I do for a living, I am very disciplined and I don't let things get out of hand. I never have. But this was a steady increase despite no change in diet, exercise level, etc. So I thought it was a good opportunity to check the medication out from the viewpoint of I wanted to experience what it did, because I think, and I certainly don't recommend this for everyone, and I'm not saying that every time we recommend a medication that I've tried it, because I don't really take any medications other than bioidentical hormones, but I had my own personal reason too, because it didn't make sense to me. I had crept up more than 5 pounds, and I always keep myself within a 5-pound window. Again, a lot of obesity in my family. I know you don't see it in me, but it's very easy for me to gain weight. Enough said. So, dosing wise, we go through here at the clinic a compounding pharmacy. Why is that? Because we feel that the dosing is potentially excessive for many people. Meaning the starting dose is about 15 units, and then after a week, if somebody's tolerating that, it quickly rises from there, because these are injections that people are given and they're pre-dosed and you have no choice. That's what you're getting. If you're going through a compounding pharmacy, you can have a complete latitude on how much you're taking. So as an example, I started out with 5 units. And then after, I think 2 or 3 weeks, I went up to 10. And so I wasn't even at the loading dose and still felt the changes. So the other thing is that the drug can get quite expensive. And if you're going through a compounding pharmacy, not only can you start on these much smaller doses, but then you're saving money. So if you're morbidly obese and it's being covered by insurance, that's one thing, but I still do have, and my team, we have the concerns that the starting dose and then how quickly it's ramped up can really get you into some potential issues. Okay, so here's my experience. I definitely was less hungry by a lot, and it's an interesting feeling to get full very fast, to really not have a lot of interest in food. So, and that's a liability as well. So we're going to go over the pros and the cons. So I definitely had, as I said, decreased appetite, less interest in food. So it made it easy to eat less. And I guess that was about it. There is the fact that the slowing of gastric emptying on these drugs can cross the threshold of making you really constipated. And that's dangerous because we have to get those toxins out of our body. It starts to put stress on your microbiome, so you're getting more bad bacteria being produced. So it's certainly starting to counteract the anti-inflammatory benefits of having enough GLP-1. So you definitely have to mind that. I'm somebody who can easily cross over into being constipated. So for me to keep things moving, I had to add psyllium husk powder. I also added MCT oil. So I had to do some things to kind of keep everything very regular, which is critical. So you have to know that going in. The other key factor is that what we talk to our patients about who are on these smaller doses. So we wouldn't call it a micro dose, but it's a very much reduced dose. And it's very important that you exercise, because you will lose 40% muscle. So you're losing fat, but you're also losing muscle. And the thing is, between losing muscle because you're not exercising, so you have to do resistance training and really increase your muscle to counterbalance that. But if you're really not hungry, then what's going to happen? You don't have as much energy, and like you love what the scale is showing you because the scale's going down and you're not hungry. You go, this is great. But if you're not mindful of pushing yourself and doing resistance training and looking at what you are eating, so it can be great to have no appetite when you've been really kind of run and driven by food most of your life, but what are you eating? You have to assess, what did each meal contain, and did I even eat? We have patients who sometimes say, oh well, I wasn't hungry, so I just didn't. It's like, no, we can't do that. You're going to get weak, you're going to lose a lot of muscle, and then what's going to happen is when you finally do wean off the drug, you've got so much less muscle that you're going to gain back fat versus muscle. It's a catch-22 you don't want to get in the middle of. So because I'm a clinician, I've done this my whole life, I was extremely mindful of what I was putting in my body. And even though portions were decreased, I pushed myself to make sure I was getting enough protein, complex carbohydrates, etc. So that's something that we really work with our patients on, and if they're not exercising and they're not eating and they're just skipping meals and that's continuing, then we'll take them off of it if our education won't get them to the point they've realized the importance of it. And when you're on the smaller doses, the weight loss should be quite a bit slower. So even though I really experienced this no interest in food, for me, it was easy to push myself and know what I had to do, but I can see the other side of it very, very readily. So just want you to see both sides and know what you're getting into potentially. Okay, so that was my experience. Now I want to share with you an alternative. So what I found, ultimately, over the course of, and this is very slow, so I was on this for about 6 months. I went from 10 units to 15, which is the loading dose, and then I went back to 10 and back to 5. So I didn't stay at the 15 for very long because I had my experience, that was fine. Lost the whopping 5-6 pounds that I wanted to lose, which is great. And I learned a lot. I learned what patients experience. So from that end of it, it was very valuable. But I was concerned about, okay, how do I keep my appetite down? Because that's always been a thing. As you get older, you need less calories, but then you need more protein. And so I was very mindful of seeing, what the size of meals were. I'm still eating 3 meals a day. I don't snack, but it was like, what was the size of these so I could maintain this? But I did find that the cravings were annoying, because that just, it's annoying to have cravings. You're just like, I fed you, be quiet now. But it's like, no, I want more food. So I found a product. I have no affiliation with this product, but I hope you can see that. It's called Calo Curb. So kind of curb your calories. So this is a product that has been researched for 14 years in New Zealand, and it does just that. It's made from hops. It's gluten-free hops, so if you're gluten-free like I am, no problem there. The active ingredient is amorosate. I had to look down at my notes, but what it does is it increases your GLP-1, because I'm an underproducer, and those of us suffering from weight issues are likely underproducers of GLP-1, and what it does is it raises your GLP-1 600%. So you're like, okay, great. So I started playing around with this as I was weaning down off the semaglutide I was taking. And they're they're tiny, they're minusculely small capsules. And so, you know, no swallowing issues or anything like that. But what the research shows is that it decreases hunger by about 30%, it decreases cravings 40%, and then decreases calorie intake anywhere from 12 to 18%. So that's a very good good result. So you can really feel it. And so, as I said, I started playing around with it, and I definitely have found it to work. What is great about it is it doesn't tend to cause constipation, which was an issue for me, and it's not for anybody with irritable bowel disease, IBD. I have to look into why that is. I just saw it cited, so I wanted to share it with you, but the mechanism of it I have yet to look into. But very well researched, and what's nice about it is not only something you can try instead of a GLP-1, but if you're weaning off, as I was, then it's something that, well, let me step back for a second. When you stop taking a GLP-1, you're then left with being an underproducer the way you always were. And so the likelihood of gaining the weight right back is extremely high, but this can get in there as an intermediary and really raise your GLP-1 so you're not sort of leaving yourself, you know, the rug pulled out from under you and splat, you go on your face. So I found that it really has worked. I'm continuing with it. It's definitely been a good solution for me to kind of keep me where I am. And the dose you can figure out. Personally, I take one for two. There's 2 and 2. So I do 2 first thing in the morning. You wait an hour before you eat, and then also 2 before dinner, because I have a small lunch, so lunch is not anything I needed to be concerned about as far as overeating. I'm busy during my day, so that's not a problem. But breakfast and dinner seem to work for me. I've heard people be on it for a while and then they only need 2 a day. That's something you can play with. But hearkening back to our favorite topic of gut health, hiatal hernia, acid reflux, if we can get the weight down sensibly, keep our GLP-1 high enough, which is so protective of not just against overeating, but as I said, insulin levels, preventing fatty liver, and keeping gut health, you know, gut integrity strong. That's amazing. So I hope this was helpful and interesting for you. I wanted to share my story. It is July as I'm taping this, so this all started for me 7 months ago. So I'm well into the experience, and I wanted to share it with you. And if you have any questions, I'm of course always here to answer them. If you like this video, if you like the channel, please consider subscribing. We're really trying to increase our subscribers, and very much appreciate your feedback, thumbs up, subscribing. I answer pretty much every comment I get on the site. I love hearing from you, and I appreciate you. We'll talk soon.